Fred runs his own landscaping business.
Yeah, with my two brothers.
They take their business very seriously.
Sure do.
Fred traded up to commercial auto insurance from Geico for serious customized coverage that grows as his business does, all for seriously low rates.
All right, so when's it gonna happen? You know, the big Geico surprise.
I'm sorry?
Some hair metal band. Are they gonna jump out of those bushes?
No, this is a serious Geico ad.
That pyro was pretty cool, though.
Get more with Geico Commercial Insurance. Trade up today at geico.com/commercial. This is Joan.
Morning.
Joan is an owner-operator truck driver.
Yep, hauling some produce today.
She doesn't have the time to fool around.
Whew, so true.
Joan traded up to Geico Commercial Insurance for serious 360 coverage, not just for her truck, but for her cargo. She can even get serious savings for her inspection history.
So, where's the Geico twist? Is Napoleon gonna come out driving a forklift?
Bonjour!
No, this is a serious Geico ad.
Oh, no. Au revoir!
Get more with Geico Commercial Insurance. Trade up today at geico.com/commercial.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Rouse's Markets, official grocer of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's, this feels like home. Chris Blair, 15 minutes from right now, voice of the Tigers. Talk some hoops with Chris as Tigers got 2 more non-conference games coming up before the gauntlet of the SEC shows up. So we'll get Chris's thoughts on all of that. We'll start hour number 2 talking about the Saints' newest addition. It's got a local flavor. By now you know. Clyde Edwards-Helaire been signed to the practice squad to the New Orleans Saints. Clyde was integral, as you all well know, in the 2019 National Championship team. I was convinced entering that season that Clyde would kind of be the starter on that team, and that eventually John Emery and Ty Davis-Price would overtake him because they're just more talented dudes. Little did I know that Clyde would be a linchpin in the greatest offense we've ever seen, and then a first-round pick just a few months later. Just another impressive take by me entering that 2019 season. But Clyde had a great run here in LSU, and as I mentioned, he became a first-round pick of the Kansas City Chiefs. And in that first year in 2020, he had a pretty good rookie year. I mean, I think everyone that saw that pick right at the end of the first round in that draft was like, oh, that's going to be really good. That's a team that's got Tyreek Hill, and they got Mahomes, and they're fast, and they're high-flying. They got Kelsey, and they're going to Clyde's just going to fit right in there with all that space, and he's just going to be a demon. And you look at him in his first year, and he played 13 games, carried it 181 times for 803 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also made 36 catches that year and scored a touchdown through the air, had 300 yards receiving. So you're talking about over 1,000 yards in his first season in Kansas City. But since then, there's kind of just been a steady decline. And he obviously didn't have any impact this current season. You've seen guys like Isaiah Pacheco take over there and have far greater roles than Clyde had. But Clyde is not a guy at this point in his career that has been overworked. I mean, he's only had 441 carries over the course of 5 seasons. That you're talking about 90 carries a season, which is a very, very, very small workload for a guy that certainly was not overworked at LSU. He was behind Nick Brissett. Now, he had a big role for 1 year in 2019, but this is a young 25-year-old player, and I think a reasonable signature for the Saints. As badly as I want to get on here and go, this is awesome, Saints taking a local guy, Baton Rouge product, LSU national champion, first-round pick, 2-time Super Bowl champion, coming in to New Orleans, Kamara's hurt, get this guy the ball, revitalize his career. As much as I'd like to say that, like, it's not under the practice squad. They've got a couple of guys in front of him, and he's just showed up 4 days before this game on Monday night. So I don't know how big an impact Clyde is going to have immediately or this year or even long term. What I will say, though, is that this is a perfectly reasonable sign by the New Orleans Saints. I can tell you this. Clyde is a great young man, great locker room guy, wonderful to have around, is not going to be an attitude problem, and he's really talented. Has he been a super productive NFL player? No. He's run in it's 4 seasons of playing and then 1 year of not being out on the field this year, but he's run for 1,800 yards and 12 touchdowns over 5 seasons, basically. But the Saints at running back are a little bit up in the air. Kamara's going to be there for 2 more years, and he's playing well when he's healthy, and they have an offensive line that can function. But he is getting up in age, and we all know that. Kendre Miller is a question mark. It's a question mark from, is he good enough to be a lead back in the NFL? Is he a solid number 2? Can he stay healthy? All these are question marks around Kendre Miller. And you start to funnel down with Jamal Williams and the guys they've had on the practice squad and the Cabotes, whatever. None of it is set in stone. It's not like they have an elite or young backfield. It's an old guy at the front and then a bunch of guys who hadn't really proven much. And what's Clyde? Kind of a middle-aged guy who's proven a little bit. So he fits into that equation, and then you just say, well, may the best man win. And that may be Clyde. It may not be Clyde. But I do know that it is cool for the folks in South Louisiana, in this part of the world, certainly those that are big fans of LSU and the Saints, to have another LSU guy, a guy that is beloved by this fan base, to be back in action. Again, I struggle to talk about the impact on this team specifically, but when you look at what Alvin Kamara does, Clyde has some of that skill set. He's just not as good. Like, he hasn't been as productive. Kamara's a little smoother if Clyde's a little quicker, but they both do well out in space. They both can run the screen game. Neither one of those guys has made a living between the tackles, though Kamara's gotten better at that in the middle part of his career. Ingram kind of handled a lot of that early in Kamara's day. Now Kamara, with being the lead back, has had to do more of that, especially this year where they've had injuries at running back. But I think bringing Clyde in is a good move for New Orleans, and I would echo the sentiments of a lot of folks here around South Louisiana that want this to work out. It's a breath of fresh air for Clyde. There's not as much pressure. He's not a first-round pick here. That can be a tough thing to go into a place where there's all that expectation, and there's not really an opportunity for you to get your sea legs under you in Kansas City because they are in full speed ahead win mode as long as Mahomes is there. And he came in right in the middle of Mahomes' prime. And yes, he did ride that along for 2 Super Bowls, but there's a lot of pressure that goes with being that first-round pick. And not unlike what we've seen from guys like Peyton Turner and Marcus Davenport and guys that have been first-round picks in New Orleans that have had trouble paying that off. It will wear on the fan base and it'll wear on you. And I think that there's potential that some of that may have happened with Clyde this year. Sat out a little bit, and he's dealing with some mental things that have come from the issue that he had at a player at LSU, where there was an attempted burglary and robbery, and he ended up pulling the trigger. Like, there's just a lot that's gone in to that, and it's still part of his life. So you hope that he's recovered from that mentally, and that he's ready to take this on head on. He's on the practice squad right now. We'll see what Kamara's status is coming up for this game on Monday. Maybe he's elevated. Maybe he's not ready yet. I heard Jacob and T-Bob talking about this morning, and I think Jake's got a great perspective on that. When he was signed at Denver, they signed him on a Tuesday, and that's the NFL day off, if y'all aren't aware. And so he was able to sit there with Brock Osweiler all day and go over the entirety of the offense. Clyde signed on a Wednesday. Since the Saints play on Monday, that's kind of the day off there where he can take that whole day to prepare and try to learn the system. He is a veteran. He does understand how some of this stuff works. So I guess he could theoretically be ready to give you some snaps on Monday. I think more realistically, he's a practice squad guy that you may lean on later on, especially if Kamara gets banged up again or can't come back. But I'm for Clyde. I hope Clyde does exceptionally well, and I hope this works out for the Saints. I think it's a very reasonable signing, a very cheap signing, and one that could pay off because he's a talented guy in a position group that's not overwhelming with the Saints after Alvin Kamara, who, as we talked about, is getting up in age. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 25 years old, signs with the Saints on the practice squad, and we'll see if he can have some sort of impact with the home team now moving forward this year. If you're looking for our Saints coverage, you can always find it, Hunt on Saints on YouTube. That is in podcast form now. Speaking of podcast form, our basketball segments are in podcast form as well. Hoops with Hunt, our LSU football segments in podcast form as well. Hunt on LSU. So Hunt on LSU, Hunt on Saints, Hoops with Hunt. All those podcast feeds are up and running. So appreciate it, you, if you make us part of your day, whether it's on your commute, whether it's on the workout, wherever you may be making us part of your day. We certainly do appreciate all of that. Still plenty to do here on this Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. We're presented by Rouse's Markets. We're going to make a phone call out to Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, coming up next. We'll talk some hoops and maybe a little Texas Bowl with Chris, since we won't have an opportunity to do that before the Tigers kick things off next week. So we'll come back with the voice of the Tigers. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. The only fully exclusive Genesis dealer in the state of Louisiana is Genesis of Baton Rouge. If you're in the market for a new vehicle, you're probably going to be on Airline Highway. If you're on Airline Highway, just make one more stop. Stop on by Genesis of Baton Rouge. You'll notice the difference from the moment you step into the dealership. It's an incredible setting in there. It's clean. They've got a wonderful, relaxed atmosphere. They've got this awesome coffee machine that has every single type of coffee you could imagine. Got great Wi-Fi in there, great places to sit, great snacks. So if you're there while you're getting some service done or waiting around to handle your business with your car, it's a great setting, and the staff is phenomenal. I have met a number of people over there at Genesis of Baton Rouge, from the top all the way down. Their brand ambassadors are fantastic to work with, and they'll get you behind the wheel of one of those Genesis, and you'll see the difference. You'll know that you're behind the wheel of a Genesis. Every new purchase at Genesis of Baton Rouge, 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Every car on the lot at Genesis of Baton Rouge is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. genesisofbatonrouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
This is Robert.
Hey there.
Robert is an over-the-road trucker. He takes his business very seriously.
Yes, I do.
Robert traded up to Geico for serious commercial coverage, ensuring not just his truck, but his cargo too, all for seriously low rates, with serious savings for his inspection history.
So they're going to be a talking animal with a catchphrase like a armadillo?
What the armadillo?
There he is.
No, this is a serious Geico ad.
Aww.
Get more with Geico Commercial Insurance. Trade up today at geico.com/commercial. Miles here is an electrician running wiring for this new home build.
Good morning.
Miles doesn't have time for funny business.
I guess.
Miles traded up to serious commercial auto insurance from Geico for customized coverage that grows with his business, all for seriously low rates.
So where's the Geico surprise cameo?
Come again?
You know, like some big famous football player or something. He's gonna bust through that wall, isn't he?
No, this ad is serious business.
Guys, get over here. You gotta see this.
No, there's nothing funny over here. Sorry. Get more with Geico Commercial Insurance. Trade up today at geico.com/commercial.
Chugging right along here, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Working towards the weekend. Working towards another basketball game. Tigers will play on Sunday against New Orleans. Chris Blair will be on the call for that. On the call all year with John Brady, Final Four coach, and he joins us every Thursday here on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Chris, how are you?
HP, I'm doing good, man. Getting ready for the big day. What is it? Coming up in less than a week. Christmas Day on the way.
It is very much on the way. I'm curious what Coach Brady thought of the first 9 minutes of that basketball game on Tuesday night.
He it was kind of it was an interesting take that he had, as only he can give. And one was he's never seen a team miss that many shots back to back to back to back to back. And then secondly, and this is why I value him on the broadcast, and I certainly hope Tiger fans do. He mentioned that, yes, LSU is dominating this game. They lead 47-10 at the break, but Stetson was able to drive, and they were able to get some good looks at the rim. They just couldn't throw it in the ocean. And he said, that's something that's got to be a little concerning that I'm sure Coach Matt McMahon and his staff's going to handle because, in less than a month when you're playing the SEC, they get that deep, they get those looks, they are going to be able to make it. So he was complimentary and then less than complimentary, all in the same breath.
We'll leave Stetson in the rearview mirror here shortly, but I'm curious what that looked like from courtside as far as their body language went. I mean, I've never seen a team go 10 minutes and not be able to put it in the bucket to start a game. That's got to be demoralizing.
Yeah, I mean, I know of Donnie Jones. Growing up in Eastern Kentucky, Donnie Jones was kind of a local basketball hero. He had a great career at Pikeville College, which happens to be my mom's alma mater. He set a season record for assists, and then my good buddy that I grew up playing ball with eventually beat his record. So I knew Donnie, and I could tell it was frustrating in that first half, 0 of 10, 0 of 11, 0 of 15. We weren't sure they were going to reach double digits in the first half. They barely did. But it was interesting because I thought Stetson in the second half said, you know what? The guys who played the majority of minutes in the first half, they're not going to play in the second half. And he had a number of true freshmen, had a number of guys who really had played limited time in their previous games. And he just said, hey, they're giving me effort. And, again, they were able to score the ball in the second half. But it had to be frustrating. And frankly, we didn't see the guys who were missing shots in the first half. We didn't see a whole lot of them in the second half. And, again, kudos to Donnie. He made the right choice.
Let's talk about some of the LSU guys. Curtis Givens, to me, has looked a little tentative, a little timid early in his freshman season. Something unlocked there in the second half, in my opinion. He was making some decisive passes, some good feeds. He ended up with 6 assists. Did you see a little different guy in the second half of that game?
Absolutely. And, Coach Brady is raved about Curtis this season in the fact that, he's one of those guys. He's a true point guard mentality. He's looking for, I've got a good shot, but I got to find somebody who's got a better shot. And there have been times in the early part of the season where he's been able to, beat his guy off the dribble or make a nice little crossover. And then, he's got a look. He's got a mid-range jumper. He's got a runner or a teardrop. And he's looking to pass it off. And, Coach McMahon has said he is a scorer. It's nice that he's looking to facilitate others. But, again, we're going to need points when those points opportunities are there. So, yes, I think it was a more of a scoring look for Curtis in that second half. And some of that could have been, the fact that they were leading so big that he thought, maybe I can try to see if I can get into a groove. But goodness knows, they're going to need everybody when the opportunity arises to put the ball in the cylinder.
I mean, everybody knows what's coming. That's just a common refrain of everything. Everybody I talked about LSU basketball knows that, hey, you get 2 more here and then buckle up. So what can they accomplish over the next 2 weeks against teams that are ranked 350 plus in the net?
I think that, when you look at the loss at SMU, there were their spacing was not good, Hunt. You probably noticed that, obviously in the second half. And it led to, just not a lot of room to work and some errant passes with a lot of people around. And that's really why they lost the game, the 17 turnovers. 17 turnovers against virtually anybody in the SEC. You're not going to lose by 10. You're going to lose by 30.
Yeah.
And so I think there's some of that. They just need to work on their court presence and obviously cutting down the turnovers. And I think also, defensive rebounding. I mean, Corey Chest is an absolute machine. I would make the argument, and I know we have a small sample size to work with, but as far as, wanting to rebound and being in position and having the athletic ability to do so, I mean, I think he may be one of the best rebounders in the country. I mean, he's just born to be a rebounder. But they've got to improve as a team defensive rebounding. And that's one of the things Matt said after the game in the win over Stetson. Wasn't so impressed with, the big win and the margin of victory. He was talking about how, his guards were getting 4 rebounds and 5 rebounds and 6 rebounds. And that, to me, is what they're going to have to do, especially when they join conference play. So you're going to be playing 2 teams, UNO and Mississippi Valley State, which are near the bottom in basically every metric you can look at in college basketball. But it's going to be about LSU playing LSU and getting better in those areas. I mean, again, you turn the ball over and you can't rebound on the defensive end, it's going to be a lot of long nights in the SEC.
I'm curious because I know that you've got contacts all over the Southeast from former coworkers, play-by-play voices, friends. Is there a lot of buzz in the text message chains about how everybody's playing in the non-conference? I've never seen anything like this.
I got a ton of text messages. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, Hunt, on the 50-4 record by the SEC, which, again, we got used to it. I mean, night after night, you see an SEC team playing, and you're like, oh, wow, they defeated this guy, and they beat this team. But when you see that number, 50-4, I mean, that's quite remarkable. And, I give the SEC grief when they deserve grief, but credit to that office 10 years or so ago. They realize that college basketball is really a way to make a ton of money. I mean, you got to get into the tournament if these schools and conferences want to make money. That's a big money maker, and they really, whatever. Just the encouragement or the priority was put on, college basketball, and suddenly now you're seeing, Hall of Fame coaches and, incredible programs and facilities. And, again, I don't know that it should be a surprise if you've followed SEC basketball for the last 10 and 12, 15 years, but there's been a conscious effort to improve it. And I would argue, and the numbers back it up currently, the SEC is the best basketball conference in the country, which has to be miserable for everybody else because we already know football is the best conference.
How's the baseball conference and softball? When you get at that?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. You mentioned 50-4, and it's not 50-4 against Stetson. All that it's 50-4 against Kansas and North Carolina and Houston and Gonzaga and Duke. I mean, it's just unbelievable what the league has kind of grown into, and I'm curious to see how the Tigers stack up come a couple of weeks from now. I want to get a thought on the bowl game before y'all travel that way. Your overarching thoughts on LSU's trip over to Texas. I was encouraged that Braden Swinson announced yesterday that he was going to play. I certainly don't blame guys who aren't, but when a guy says he is going to play, I like to hear that.
No, absolutely. I we had this conversation in the building a couple of days ago. Like, I understand if guys are getting ready to make this a career and preparing for the draft, preparing for the combine, whatever the case may be. I understand. If you're in the college football playoff, that's a different conversation. But by the same token, I was pleased to see the announcement that Braden Swinson was going to play. Twofold. One, because he certainly is going to help LSU against Baylor. But number two, it's going to be fun to watch him play again because I really enjoyed watching him this season. And so for that, I think we all are winners. I got what I think will be my 2 and 3 deep chart earlier today. So now I can officially kind of get ready for the Texas Bowl. So, hopefully that's the names I have are the names that are going to travel to Houston and we'll be ready to go against Baylor. Again, you mentioned having friends. I got a ton of friends that work at Baylor, and I know it's been a tough couple of seasons for Coach Dave Aranda, and they're really putting a lot of emphasis on this bowl game. And again, I know it's not a college football game, but I just get the sense talking to the people in Waco that this is a very important game for Dave Aranda, and it's a very important game for Baylor. So it'll be nice to know that LSU is going into this with the same kind of motivation.
Yeah, look, they've won 6 in a row over there in Waco, so they're fired up to be there. We'll see what LSU can do to kind of answer that call. I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but what's coming up on the network? I know basketball on Sunday, Matt McMahon's show coming up. I know you all be in Houston. What's as the holidays kind of hit, what's going on the network?
Yeah, it's kind of hit or miss this time of year. So we'll have Sunday's game, and then we'll really start focusing on getting ready for the Christmas holiday and making sure we got everything locked up and ready to go. Because as you well know, especially now with a youngster, that once you hit Christmas, man, New Year's might as well be the next day. Yeah. I mean, it is just an absolute blur. So that's what we're going to be working on. Obviously, women's basketball, very important week for them. So they got a big game tonight for Nissimoro back in Chicago, so we'll have that one on tonight. And then, of course, you'll be the grand marshal of everything we do on New Year's Eve for the Texas Bowl.
And what you don't know about that week between Christmas and New Year's, my kid's birthday is the 27th and my wife's is the 30th. So that week in the Palmer house is just... It's expensive and it's a lot.
I know what I'm getting you for Christmas, a big bottle of scotch.
I would like to have that very, very much. Thank you, sir. I'll be waiting on that on the pregame show. Thanks, Chris. Y'all have a great Christmas.
You too.
Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, good enough to give us a little bit of time on this Thursday. Myers Man's birthday party coming up on Sunday, so we got to get that knocked out before Christmas.
We have a theme, or what's going on?
Yeah, dinosaurs.
Okay.
Love dinosaurs.
I was thinking either that or monster trucks.
Yeah, that would be the other. And baseball and Blippy. That's about all he can do. Those are the 4 food groups that he handles daily. So very much looking forward to all that. It's a wild week in the Palmer house. LSU has had another player enter the transfer portal and has signed another player from the transfer portal. I will tell you about both of those coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Neil and Melissa Boudreaux been rocking and rolling for 40 years down there in Napoleonville for Boudreaux's Electrical. They're a certified Generac dealer. They are a premier Generac dealer. That means they're in the top 3% nationwide in Generac generator sales. Every generator that you purchase from Boudreaux's Electrical comes with a 7 to 10 year warranty. Give yourself the peace of mind, not only for a year, for 7 to 10 years with that warranty of knowing the power is not going to go out on you. They happen down here, power outages. Bad drivers hitting poles, hurricanes, ice storms from last year.
Fred runs his own landscaping business.
Yeah, with my two brothers.
They take their business very seriously.
Sure do.
Fred traded up to commercial auto insurance from Geico for serious customized coverage that grows as his business does, all for seriously low rates.
All right, so when's it gonna happen? You know, the big Geico surprise.
I'm sorry?
Some hair metal band. Are they gonna jump out of those bushes?
No, this is a serious Geico ad.
That pyro was pretty cool, though.
Get more with Geico Commercial Insurance. Trade up today at geico.com/commercial. Miles here is an electrician running wiring for this new home build.
Good morning.
Miles doesn't have time for funny business.
I guess.
Miles traded up to serious commercial auto insurance from Geico for customized coverage that grows with his business, all for seriously low rates.
So where's the Geico surprise cameo?
Come again?
You know, like some big famous football player or something. He's gonna bust through that wall, isn't he?
No, this ad is serious business.
Guys, get over here. You gotta see this.
No, there's nothing funny over here. Sorry. Get more with Geico Commercial Insurance. Trade up today at geico.com/commercial.
Even those summer storms that come through, it's just a nuisance when the power goes out for 2.5 hours. Just put that in the past. Boudreaux's Electrical can help you out with that. I'm going to give you the phone number, give them a call, give you the website at the end. You know it by now, but it's 985-397-1562 on the phone. Again, that's 985-397-1562 or 225-300-9389, 225-300-9389. That's the New Gonzales location. I give you the easy way every day. BoudreauxElectrical.com, BoudreauxElectrical.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Get your picks in now for the Hooters College Football Bowl Pick'em Challenge presented by Yingling. Register at 1045ESPN.com and get your picks in by December 27th. This year's season-long champion will win $1,000 in cash and a $200 Hooters gift card.
All right. Sometimes in this biz, you drop a tease at the end of a segment. You pick it up. And sometimes you do so with some real juice coming after that tease. And that's a useful tool with this medium. And sometimes you drop a tease that's a little bit disingenuous and may drag some listeners along. I try not to do that. I may have just done it in the previous segment. I said that LSU had lost a player in the transfer portal and had picked one up. That is, in fact, true. How impactful either of these additions/losses, that can be debated. LSU has just gotten a commitment in the transfer portal from Middle Tennessee State punter Grant Chadwick. Now, I'll tell you this, and y'all, if you listen to me, if you listen to Matt, if you listen to the morning show, if you listen to whoever you listen to on YouTube or in podcast form, anyone that was at practice in August told you this punting situation looks really bad. And I can tell you that it did. I don't claim to be a special teams expert, but I can watch guys sit there and hit wounded ducks that don't go very far and tell you that's not very good. And we saw a lot of that in August. You had Peyton Todd, who had been in the program for a couple of years, was the number one punter in the country coming out of high school, but hadn't really had that opportunity. And then you had Blake Oxendorf come in. He was an all-conference punter at Tech. Like, okay, well, they'll compete and they'll figure it out. And what ended up happening was they split the duties. They had 30 kicks on the year. Peyton Todd took 18 punts. Blake Oxendorf took 12. They averaged 39.7 yards per punt. That was dead last in the Southeastern Conference. They had 12 of the 31 punts, well, 30 punts, there was one extra. 12 of the 30 punts were down inside the 20-yard line. LSU only punted the ball 50-plus yards one time the entire season. I wouldn't submit, watching this team play for the entirety of 12 games, that punting was an abject disaster. It wasn't like they were shanking it all over the place or they were snapping over the punter's head. They just weren't very good at punting. And I don't know what the future holds for Peyton Todd. I think Oxendorf is out of eligibility. I'll have to go check that. This is new news. He is. Okay. So Oxendorf will move on. I don't know what the future holds with Peyton Todd. They needed to find someone to come in and potentially help them with punting. I can't tell you much at all about Grant Chadwick other than the fact he averaged 43.4 yards per punt, which is 4 yards better than LSU did last year. I can tell you this, in Pete Nakos's Twitter, The picture of Grant Chadwick has him posing like a golfer, which means he just probably pinned one inside the 10 and struck the golfer pose. I appreciate that as someone who enjoys the sport of golf. How much that correlates to his ability to punt? Probably zero. That's all I know about Grant Chadwick. But LSU needed an infusion of some talent in the punting situation, and they appear to have gotten that in Grant Chadwick. Now, who's on the way out? You obviously want to know that. Is it a starter? Is it a key piece? Not really. A.J. Swann has filed the necessary paperwork to enter the transfer portal. Swann, of course, transferred into LSU from Vanderbilt. Another situation where LSU got a guy who had started some games with an SEC team to come in and fill a backup role. It's not unlike Michael Van Buren, who started for Mississippi State for 7 games this year, and he's coming in to play a backup role. Swann's big, physical, wasn't great at Vanderbilt, but that was a really bad situation he was in. You saw him come into the game against Oklahoma, didn't look great in that game in abbreviated action when Nussmeier went out with that injury in the second quarter. So Swann will look elsewhere. So what does this mean for LSU's quarterback situation? Well, you've got Garrett Nussmeier, and he's your starter. And you've got Michael Van Buren coming in, who has started games in the SEC. And then you've got Colin Hurley. Ricky Collins has moved on. A.J. Swann has moved on. 3 quarterbacks is playing with fire a little bit. Now, I'm not suggesting this is some sort of roster mismanagement from LSU, because it's not. The reality is it's hard to get to 4 quarterbacks in a given time. LSU played through this year with 4 quarterbacks. One of them was an early enrollee who came in with no anticipation of playing whatsoever. That, of course, was Colin Hurley. So I don't know if there's anybody available that LSU can go get. I think they've got eyes on one freshman quarterback, the kid who was committed to North Carolina, and then Mac Brown retired or was fired or whatever that happened in North Carolina. So he is potentially going to hold off. He has held off on signing. He's going to sign in the spring period. Maybe LSU can get him. And if you can bring him into the mix, great. I'm okay with going into the mix with a 5th-year senior in Nussmeier, with a 2nd-year player that was been an SEC starter in Van Buren, with a 2nd-year player in Colin Hurley, and then with a true freshman. That is about as good as you can do. The days of having a deep quarterback room with, a senior, 2 juniors, and 2 sophomores, all who were 4-star recruits, like that day left 12 years ago. You've just got to play musical chairs at quarterback and hope that you've got the right guy at the top, and then let the other guy fall where they may. I've told you multiple times over the last 3 days that I thought it was a really good job of threading the needle by LSU to get Michael Van Buren to campus. I don't know if Michael Van Buren is going to ever start a game at LSU. I don't know if he's going to be a first-team All-American or win a Heisman at LSU. I don't know if he's going to transfer and play quarterback for Alabama next year. I don't know anything about Michael Van Buren's future. You can't know anything about these guys' futures at this point. But if I look at LSU's quarterback situation right now, I think they've got a really good one at the top in Nussmeier. I think you've got a proven commodity in the SEC in Van Buren. I think you've got some talent in Hurley, and then you probably need to go get one more. The loss of Swann, he came in against Oklahoma. That's a guy who he can play college quarterback. I don't know if it needs to be at LSU, quite frankly. So I don't mean to disparage a young man, but I mean you saw the situation. So it's probably best for him that he does look to transfer and see what kind of greener pastures await him. So if you're keeping score at home, that's a defection from A.J. Swann. That is an addition for LSU at the punter spot with Middle Tennessee transfer Grant Chadwick. Was that his name? I got to pull it back up. Grant Chadwick is the punter for Middle Tennessee State. Beck, you said something interesting there in the break, that LSU wasn't that bad at punting this past year. I would disagree. I think they were not good.
Well, the average, the thing about the average punting, the yards average is, it can be misleading because of the fact that if a team is consistently punting, around the 40 or 50, they're not trying to punt it more than 40 yards.
Wouldn't you pin more than 12 of your 30 punts inside the 20?
That's not great. I would agree with that. But I would say that they were average. I didn't think they were below average.
I'm going to do some research here, and it's going to be on the fly. I want to see what Blake Oxendorf averaged at Louisiana Tech, where he was all conference, because you realize, like, when you get a punter transfer, that should just immediately translate exactly.
Yeah, it should.
You're leading. If a guy runs for 1,400 yards in D2 and transfers up, that may not. But punting seems like it would be something that would immediately transfer over. You look at all conference at Tech. I'm looking for. He averages 40 for his career. Oh, no. Division I, 53 punts, 45.7 yard average. So his average went from 45.7 this year, and it dipped to 40. Now, he was the one they used more often inside the 20. He had 7 inside the 20. So that's probably what you're looking at there.
Yeah.
But it stands to reason that, like, Peyton Todd averaged 41 yards a kick. Oxendorf's averaged 45 at Tech. You would think he could do that at LSU. And it also created a situation that this never bit him. But I talked to Bob Diaco for my pregame interview before I think it was the Oklahoma game. No, second to last game. It was Vanderbilt because I did Jake Flint for the last game. So I talked to Bob Diaco, and he said when you have a situation like around the 38-yard line or so, you would have the special teams ready and the offense ready to go for a fourth down, where you could go for it, where you had to send in a sub package. You could send in one punt team or the other punt team, depending on what happened on that third down play. Like, I think at that point, you're kind of overdoing it. I think LSU should be able to have a guy who they can trust to boom it 53 yards when that needs to happen and to pin it inside the 8 when that needs to happen. And it just didn't have that this year. They were playing musical chairs.
They were. And, yeah, you would hope that this guy, Chadwick, coming in can take that role. Do we like the golf celebration? Yeah, of course. That's a classic. I don't know if Pat McAfee was the first one to do it, but I remember him being pretty famous for it. But also maybe, I don't know. It's just at this point, Peyton Todd probably is what he is. I don't know how much better you get over 5 years as a punter, but maybe if he can get his technique sharpened up. But I don't know, man. That was kind of one of those wondering what happened there. He was the top punting prospect when he came into LSU, but he just couldn't figure it out for some reason.
Dude, going out there in August, it was, a bunch of schmoes like us, the sports writer brigade that was out there were like, this is not great. Like, nobody's asking us to draw up the split zone run, to draw up the counter play. Nobody's asking us to how to dissect the cover 2. But we can watch dudes try to punt and go, that's not very good. It was a bad August. I would submit, as I said at the top of the segment, it was not a disaster punting wise. You've seen college football teams who have a punter who gets the shanks and is punting 8-yard punts like 3 or 4 times over the course of 3 games. That never happened with LSU. They never boomed it, and they didn't do a great job of pinning balls inside the 20. So they'll look elsewhere with Grant Chadwick and see if they can happen things. Incidentally, as I just see on the Twitter feed, AJ Swann is going to join the team at the Texas Bowl. So that's a pretty rare thing that a guy would get in the transfer portal and then play in the game. But he is going to do that. So interesting that you'll have that from AJ Swann. That kind of leads me to believe that he kind of liked his time here, just realizes the writing's on the wall. I'm probably not going to play here, so if I would like to play some more football, probably need to head elsewhere. So that'll be the news of the portal for the time being, although if you want to hear what I think will happen soon in the portal coming up in the next day, you can go back to the top of the show where I talked about a couple of linemen.
Fred runs his own landscaping business.
Yeah, with my 2 brothers.
They take their business very seriously.
Sure do.
Fred traded up to commercial auto insurance from Geico for serious customized coverage that grows as his business does, all for seriously low rates.
All right, so when's it going to happen? The big Geico surprise.
I'm sorry?
Some hair metal band. Are they going to jump out of those bushes?
No, this is a serious Geico ad.
That pyro was pretty cool, though.
Get more with Geico Commercial Insurance. Trade up today at geico.com/commercial.
The most wonderful time of the year. Although, let's be honest, around the holidays, things really add up. But here's the good news. Only at Verizon, you can get a single line for $50 per month when you switch and bring your phone. So while ice skating for 2 is definitely costing more, here at Verizon, you can save. Gifts for your third cousins? Steep. A single line with Verizon? Not so steep. A real tree? Pricey. A single line with Verizon? Less pricey. Flights to see Mima and Pops? Those are up. A $50 per month single line? That's down. Even a trip to the Atlanta Holiday Market will cost you more. But with Verizon, you can switch and bring your phone for just $50 per month for a single line on unlimited welcome, with autopay plus taxes and fees. All this to say, during the holiday season, when everything is costing more, you can get more for less right now at a local Verizon store. $15 monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G, 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than other traffic. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds. Additional terms apply.
that I think LSU is in the mix for. 3 of them, in fact, that they hope to get here in the next 48 hours or so. We got one order of business left. Of course, that's take it or leave it. We'll come back and do that on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
LeBear's Baton Rouge, your game day headquarters. I was at LeBear's Baton Rouge last night. Chris Marler, our SEC writer for LouisianaSports.net, in town this week to head to the Christmas party this evening. Said, hey, let's go to LeBear's. I said, I will go to LeBear's with you. And we were there watching some Alabama basketball on TV, drinking a cold beer, and then I watched him go lose some money on the craps table. I don't advise you go do that. I do advise you head over to the sportsbook in ESPN Bet. It is fantastic over there. They got all the football action, great big televisions, great drink specials, and tasty food. I suggest the flatbreads. The pizzas are good in there. Penn's online sportsbook is now live in Louisiana. You can score big this season at LeBear's Baton Rouge. However, you want to play. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 for help.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
ESPN Baton Rouge and Citizens Bank and Trust are bringing you the ultimate holiday gift with our Home for the Holidays sweepstakes. Imagine 2025 with your rent or mortgage covered up to $18,000. We're here to make your holidays a whole lot brighter. Just sign up at 1045ESPN.com and you could be living stress-free next year. The winner will be notified tomorrow, December 20th, so sign up now.
Am I going to win?
I don't think so.
Sometimes you read promos and I'm like, I don't really need that. I could take the mortgage payment.
Well,
if they're going to do that,
you're going to win the
like
Powerball, though, correct?
I would like to do the Power. I tell you this all the time. My biggest issue with the Powerball and why I never win is because I would never buy a ticket.
Yeah, you got to play to win, Hunt.
You really do, and I just do a poor job. My grandfather would be mortified at how few lottery tickets I bought.
Yeah,
the man loved to buy a lottery ticket. He never won either, but he had a ticket.
He played though. He could have won.
He
Hunt.
asked me when he was in the hospital near the end of his life
to go get him one.
To go get him a lottery ticket.
Hey, I mean,
talking about a guy knocking on 80's door who's still trying to win the Powerball.
Never give up, Hunt.
From the hospital.
Never give up.
Look, I learned something from that. Unfortunately, I just never purchased the ticket. I looked at the payout. It was pretty quote unquote small this week. I think it was like $55 million.
Oh, that's enough, I think.
But like, I would do well. I think the payout was like 35. So that tells me I'd win something in the neighborhood of like 18, 19 million cash after Uncle Sam got his chunk. We'd be in good shape with 19 million.
Yeah.
I'd be playing golf next week. I can promise you that. And I'm probably not going to play golf next week at this pace. So
yeah,
that's what we're looking for. But look, I'd also go to Rouse's if I won the Powerball. And you can too. Or if you don't win the Powerball, going to remind you, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays from Rouse's Markets, who bring you our Thursday shows. They got incredible deals, and I know that you're going to be feeding a lot of folks over these Christmas holidays. So check this out. Hormel Cure 81 spiral sliced ham. That Christmas ham, 97 cents a pound. That's a saving of over $2.50 a pound. You're limited to one there. The Tropical Golden Pineapples, 2 for $3. Looking to put that on the ham. That's a savings of almost $4 when you buy 2. Fresh 93% lean ground beef, $3.97 a pound. That's almost half off. So I would highly suggest you get on by and get that. And then what I'll be doing here shortly for that shrimp scampi that the bride wants for Christmas Eve. Wild caught, head on 10 to 15 count Louisiana shrimps, just $5.99 a pound. You can save $2 a pound on that. Merry Christmas from Rouse's Markets, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Speaking of those Saints, a flurry of news items have just hit. I don't really have time to get into all of them at this point. Matt will probably lead with them, quite frankly, here in a couple of minutes. But Alvin Kamara's injury is more significant than originally thought. Darren Rizzi said Kamara may have played his last snap this season. That makes the Clyde Edwards-Helaire signing a little bit more important. If Carr is unable to go, Spencer Rattler will get the start. Darren Rizzi did announce that as well. So some news that are coming out of Saints camp. I don't have time to get to all of it at this point, but sounds like that Darren Rizzi's said a lot in his first media availability in the last couple of days. Carr cannot clear concussion protocol because he can't practice. So he's just not available right now. I think Spencer Rattler's going to be your guy on Monday Night Football against the Packers. We'll have the Monday show to get you prepped for that one for sure. Tomorrow's show, very much looking forward to it. We'll talk to Preston Guy about some LSU football as they get ready for the bowl game. We'll talk to him about the transfer portal additions as well. Get you ready for the college football playoff, which, by the way, starts tomorrow. Notre Dame and Indiana will do battle tomorrow from South Bend, which is going to be like 19 degrees. So hope they have fun. I'll be on the couch. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow's show very, very much. We'll get you ready for the Saints game, as well as LSU UNO in basketball, which is not going to take quite long, quite frankly. I got one more order of business here on this Thursday. Let's play Take It or Leave It.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
Just take it.
All right, first one here. Sammy Sosa has apologized to the Chicago Cubs for the mistakes he made while playing for the team. The Cubs have accepted the apology and invited Sosa to the Cubs convention next month. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to take this big picture. I'm aware that nobody really cares about this, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Sammy Sosa is the guy who changed my life forever in making me a Cubs fan. The Cubs were on WGN during the summer months at 1:20 quite often. I would run to get the Shreveport Times off the kitchen table in the summer when I would wake up, and I would go to the page that had the TV guide on it, and I would go to 1:20, and if the WGN tab said MLB baseball, my entire day was made. That meant the Cubs were on. In 1998, I was 10. Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire got into the home run hitting competition, and I was hooked forever, and I will be obsessed with the Cubs until my dying breath because of that man. And I know that he made massive mistakes that a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old doesn't want to hear about, where he's doing steroids, he corked his bat. Like, he did some things that were really bad. But I was not 36 when that happened. I was 10. So I didn't care. He was my hero. And I have him to thank for loving the Cubs. And the Cubs have never forgiven him for some of those things. So he has never been back to Wrigley Field since he left Major League Baseball. And so that's always driven me nuts. And I can't wait till he gets back to Wrigley Field. He's going to get a hero's welcome because there are a lot of people like me that loved him in their youth. I understand he made a bunch of mistakes. I just don't care. Sammy is my guy. I wore number 21 on my baseball team growing up. Did the Sammy hop in the backyard a bajillion times. Did the chest to mouth thing that he used to do. He's the best. He's my hero, and I'm so happy he's coming back to Wrigley. I don't know. You're a little young back, but you may have some memories of that.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch him play, but I do still think that this is long overdue. This whole drama that has been between the Cubs and Sammy Sosa has just gone on for far too long. So I'm glad that this is over and that we can finally have him back in the friendly confines.
I can't. So that when COVID was on and there was nothing on TV, they were doing The Last Dance and they did the home run chase one, and I watched that on a Sunday night. And I just can't put into words, I realize that's my job here, I can't put into words the excitement that would go through a 10-year-old when Sammy's in that home run chase and he would hit a home run on TV and do the hop and Wrigley would go nuts. It was just, my dad would come home from work and I would run out and tell him, Sammy hit 2 home runs. He hit 20 home runs in June that year. He was hitting one every day. It was incredible. And I'm so happy that he's coming back to Wrigley.
All right, next one here. Zach Calzada, who previously played for Texas A&M, Auburn, and Incarnate Word the last few years, has committed to the University of Kentucky for his final college football season. And yes, it is his final one. He's only been in college for about 8 years now. Calzada and the Wildcats, take it or leave it.
I'll take it. Here's where I'm going on my rules. One transfer is very good. I think it's a fresh air for everyone. And this is tongue-in-cheek, by the way. One transfer, very good. 2 transfers, that's terrible. That's a bad thing. 4 transfers, I'm all for it. That means you just don't really care. You're just going to go see everything, and I'm all for that. I think the only folks that I'm anti here are those that transfer exactly twice. I feel like you're just running at that point. 1 transfer, breath of fresh air. 4, I just want to see everywhere. Like TJ Finley, you want to play at 9 colleges, get after it. You go see every corner of the country, and I feel that way about Calzada too. I think 2 is the one where I'm like, I don't know about that, man.
All right.
How's that take?
That's great. I love it. Last one real quick. ESPN's Dinah Rossini reported that Jets general manager Woody Johnson nixed the trade last offseason for receiver Jerry Jeudy because his Madden rating was too low. Yeah. Take it or leave it.
I read that whole story in The Athletic. It's a lot of anonymous stuff. But Woody Johnson, for those who don't know, is the heir to Johnson & Johnson, bajillions of dollars. Had in his second marriage, had kids in his 60s. So he, although he's pushing 80, has teenage sons that play a lot of Madden. And the report had multiple sources indicating that he was citing Madden grades in player evaluations in there. If you don't have The Athletic, you just gotta read this story. It's not great in New York. It says that Woody Johnson's the one that fired Robert Saleh, that Aaron Rodgers tried to make him not do that, and Woody Johnson sounds like just a complete and utter disaster. And there's one position in sports you can't fix. You can't fix owner. They don't go anywhere until somebody gets them out or they sell the team. So Jets are pretty much doomed until he bails. Longest playoff drought in American sports, 14 years since the Jets have been to the playoffs. That's it for our Thursday edition. We're brought to you by Rouse's, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. If you missed any of the show, catch it on demand. Talk transfer portal, talk Saints, talk some LSU hoops, talk some Sammy Sosa. Catch it all wherever you find your podcast. Looking forward to tomorrow's show, previewing the weekend to come. Matt's about to drive you home on After Further Review. We're going to go to the Christmas party tonight. We'll have some fun. We'll come on back tomorrow, same time, same place. Y'all have a happy and safe Thursday. Back tomorrow, The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fred runs his own landscaping business.
Yeah, with my two brothers.
They take their business very seriously.
Sure do.
Fred traded up to commercial auto insurance from Geico for serious customized coverage that grows as his business does, all for seriously low rates.
All right, so when's it gonna happen? You know, the big Geico surprise.
I'm sorry?
Some hair metal band. Are they gonna jump out of those bushes?
No, this is a serious Geico ad.
That pyro was pretty cool, though.
Get more with Geico Commercial Insurance. Trade up today at geico.com/commercial.
The most wonderful time of the year. Although, let's be honest, around the holidays, things really add up. But here's the good news. Only at Verizon, you can get a single line for $50 per month when you switch and bring your phone. So while ice skating for two is definitely costing more, here at Verizon, you can save. Gifts for your third cousins? Steep. A single line with Verizon? Not so steep. A real tree? Pricey. A single line with Verizon? Less pricey. Flights to see Mima and Pops? Those are up. A $50 per month single line? That's down. Even a trip to the Atlanta Holiday Market will cost you more. But with Verizon, you can switch and bring your phone for just $50 per month for a single line on unlimited welcome, with autopay plus taxes and fees. All this to say, during the holiday season, when everything is costing more, you can get more for less right now at a local Verizon store. $15 monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G, 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than other traffic. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds. Additional terms apply.